No.
We're now live streaming, yes?
It appears to be so.
Yes,
Live on
we
YouTube.
are.
Okay,
Well,
I will call,
Yep, we're live.
yeah, it said it, that's right. Okay. I will call to order the workshop meeting of the Park District of Highland Park on Tuesday, June 8, 2021 at 6:01 PM. Roxanne, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bernstein,
Here.
Commissioner Kaplan,
I'm here.
Commissioner Freeman,
I'm here.
Vice President Grossberg, and President Ruttenberg.
I am here also, and we have a quorum, and so we will proceed. Are there any additions to the agenda? Brian? No?
I was just wanted to know if you want me to take this opportunity to introduce our new Assistant Director of Recreation.
Yes, of course.
Please, please, please.
Okay, great. So you can see on the screen and with the, I think that's the
I can.
Recreation Center in the background there. So Amy Murin started with us last week. She is our new Assistant Director of Recreation. So she comes to us. She's a very well-seasoned recreation professional, but she came to us from the Park Ridge Park District. She has a very strong background in fitness, but also many other aspects of recreation. And she'll be overseeing the Recreation Center fitness, the registration, our aquatics, which includes inside and outside, as well as the Deer Creek Racket Club. So she started last week, as I said, and this is her first meeting. So I wanted you all to see her face. And
Well, as I said, welcome, and we're really pleased. to
Welcome,
have you.
Amy.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right, so do we have any questions for her after a week, anybody? Or should we let her go this time? All right.
Let her off the hook.
Okay, you're off the hook today. We're going to make a modification to the agenda unless there's an objection. I would like to take up the matter of the Park Avenue boat launch first, because if I correct, Commissioner Kaplan may have to leave a little bit early. And I'd like to defer the public comment till after the staff presentation. And Brian, we have one person who's on, or?
there is one attendee. For some reason, their name is not showing. We did have one registered, but I assume if they have any technical issues, they can use the chat or raise their hand if they want to give comments after we do the Park Avenue presentation.
Okay. For the purpose of that, I will defer reading the public comment script. We'll see if that unfolds. So let's go then to the approval of the Park Avenue boat launch and barge engineering services proposal. Director Smith.
All right, thank you very much. So last week, a presentation was made to the Lakefront Committee regarding the recent boat ramp failure at Park Avenue. At that meeting, the committee had provided a consensus for staff to receive a proposal from Smith Group for engineering and design for option 7 of the barge replacement. Well, option 7 is the rubble breakwater with the precast walkway. So we did receive the proposal. However, we are still working with Smith Group to fine tune that proposal. And at this point, we plan to bring it to the Finance Committee, which is next Monday on June 14th. But briefly, I will give a little bit of a description of their proposal. It's broken out into 4 phases. The first phase is data collection, and that is working at the site, doing a topographic survey, also doing a bathymetric survey, having staff from Smith Group come out to the site and do a site observation, seeing that the last time they did that was several years ago and some conditions have changed. It's also developing some base maps and some other methods for creating the construction documents, and they'll use throughout the design process. So that's kind of the first step, the first phase. Then there is preliminary engineering, where they would be getting kind of into the nuts and bolts of exactly what this option would look like, because right now it's very much a concept. And then that would kind of kick off the permitting process as well. The third phase is final engineering documents. And that's really kind of creating and finalizing those construction documents that would be used to bid out the project. And the fourth phase is their assistance with the bid and reviewing submittals and whatnot. So with that said, the data collection phase, the first phase, the total amount for that is $19,000.
Bless you.
The total amount,
Thank you.
God bless you.
the total amount is $19,000 for the data collection phase. And as I mentioned, we're not presenting a full proposal this evening, but staff are recommending approval from the park board for the first phase of Smith Group's agreement for the data collection. And it's critical to get this process started, as everyone knows. And this is really that first step, regardless of what solution is done. This information is critical for Smith Group to get started and so that we can start to develop that design. Are there any questions?
Let's see if there's any questions before we even take a motion then. Cal? Brian?
How much time for phase one?
They're estimating 4 weeks after
Thank
we
you.
receive the notice to proceed.
All right, that's my question.
Okay, Jen?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. I don't have a question. I just want to reiterate, regardless of which development proposal we collectively agree to with the cooperation of the voters and others, this is a necessary first step.
That is correct. This first step would occur regardless of which, let's say, option was moved forward with.
Okay, thank you. Let me ask if the person who's logged on, if they're still here and if they had a question or comment regarding Park Avenue.
So the person logged on is Chad Birkin, and he is still here. But he's
Chad?
not raising his hand.
No? Okay. All right. So is there a motion authorizing Executive Director Romes to enter into an agreement with Smith Group to complete topographic and bathymetric survey services for the purpose of creating a digital elevation model necessary for developing future construction drawings for the removal of the existing barge and construction of a rubble breakwater with a precast concrete walkway in the amount of $19,000.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
All right. Roxanne, please call the roll.
Commissioner Bernstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Kaplan,
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman,
aye.
President Ruttenberg.
I vote aye, and the motion is carried. Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Since Chad is, am I correct, is the only person here, is Chad going to want to speak to anything else on the agenda, or so I can, or can I avoid reading the public comment statement that's about 20 pages long? Hearing none, goes once, going twice. We'll now return to the agenda, and we will go to item 5, which is approval of ordinance 2021-03, authorizing a contract employing Brian Romes as Executive Director of the Park District of Highland Park.
So moved.
Is there a motion to approve ordinance 2021-03, authorizing a contract employing Brian Romes as Executive Director of the Park District of Highland Park? It was moved by Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a discussion? Roxanne, please call the roll.
Commissioner Bernstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Kaplan,
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
President Ruttenberg.
I vote yes. Also, the motion is carried. We have an executive director who is now in bondage to us for 3 years. So.
Thank you very much. I very much look forward to the next 3 years. Appreciate it.
I suppose we should all say you've done a great job. We appreciate the services, but you know, that's not something I'm good at doing. So let's just move on. Approval of the 2020
Cat party.
Approval of
Brian, we're very happy that you've signed on for another 3 years. We really appreciate everything you've done, and we look forward to working with you for another 3 years and many more years in the future.
I feel the love. Thank you very much, and I appreciate it. And I very much look forward to serving the Highland Park community and the Park District and working with the board and staff. So thank you all very much.
Now you see
Yeah,
why. Now you see why I moved on quickly.
What Cal said.
It'll all be smooth sailing for the next 3 years. No bumps.
Okay, approval of 2020 comprehensive annual financial report. Director Peters to present and to introduce Dan Berg.
Okay, good evening, everyone. At the Finance Committee meeting on May 20th, we had Dan Berg, who is our esteemed partner from Sickage LLP, go over the annual financial report with us. And tonight he is back again to walk us through while we have the public online as well. And so I'm going to have Dan join us. He is here and give us a few highlights of the audit for this year.
Terrific. Thank you very much for having me. And please feel free to ask any questions. Should I give the long form or the short form?
I think you should give the correct form.
Oh, okay. So I will then share my screen attempt. Do you want to continue? I think I do. And tell me if you see a screen with the comprehensive annual financial report picture.
Yeah,
okay.
We do have it.
Oh, good. It's always a crapshoot for me. The comprehensive annual financial report is ready to be filed with the Government Finance Officers Association for participation in the Certificate for Excellence in Financial Reporting. It received it last year, and we fully expect to receive it again this year. By comprehensive, the district goes above and beyond what is required by state statute, government accounting standards, and by GAAP. It includes an introductory section and a statistical section. So please, if you have not gone through this report, please start with my first thumbnail here, which is the bookmark, I'm sorry, which is the transmittal letter. It gives a really nice introduction to the Park District, a nice overview, and kind of gives a good introduction. The part of the report that is ours is the independent auditor's report. Everything else in this report is drawn from representations made by management, and we prepare it, but it's approved, and staff helps us edit it as well. But these 3 pages are ours, and oops, sorry. And the next, that one. On the top of the second page of our auditor report is the opinion. This is what you pay us for. This says that the financial statements, the basic financial statements, present fairly in all material respects. We refer to that as an unmodified opinion. It's commonly referred to as a clean opinion. It's the highest level assurance we can give, and there are no modifications whatsoever to it. So congratulations. I just want to hit on a couple of items. The first is the management discussion and analysis. If you haven't had a chance again to read this, begin here. This compares last year to this year, written by staff, and attempts to explain why things change from one year to another. Very well written and has a lot of good information in it. The financial statements themselves include the statement of net position, full accrual, and the statement of net position shows that the district has $21 million available for spending for all corporate purposes. So very nice position to be in. The statement of activities shows that the net position increased in spite of the pandemic by $3.6 million. I did want to point out a couple of quick things on the budget and actual page for the general fund, that the general fund was very close to budget in revenues, as would be expected due to the most of the revenues coming from taxes. And it was 1.3 million, almost 1.4 below budget for expenditures. The district made a significant number of freezes and holds and cuts to spending throughout the pandemic, and this is the result. The transfers out were exactly on budget, and that's why the general fund added $750,000 to its fund balance. Thought it was important to explain that. Likewise, with the recreation fund, thought it was important to compare the budget to actual and show the dramatic decrease in the charges for services, obviously with the pandemic and the lack of facilities being open. The revenues were almost $4.5 million below budget. Likewise, expenditures were far lower than budget, but not all expenditures could be cut to the same extent. Therefore, the district had a lower transfer out than was anticipated, and had basically $250,000 change in fund balance, positive, but many things were put off to future years, and many programs had to be canceled or severely cut, as you all know. Those were the big areas I wanted to hit. I also wanted to make sure that the board knew that we were spot on with our getting the report out on time, which was greatly due to the really nice and extensive preparation of the documents we require for the audit by staff. Outstanding job getting ready, outstanding job responding to our questions and reviewing the reports and helping us edit them and getting them out on time. So thank you to both the team at the Park District and my team, an outstanding job by both, especially during a pandemic and having very little face-to-face discussions and on-site work. Most of it was done remotely. So thank you very much. We also issued the board communication, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, no issues raised. Most of the comments from the prior year were implemented. So nice job on that as well. With that, happy to answer any questions you might have about the process, about this work product you have before you, or anything else you have in mind.
Dan, thank you. To Marilyn and her accounting department, good job. Thank you. We really appreciate this. Excellent work. Any questions, starting with Cal Bernstein?
Yes, well, let me first apologize to my fellow board members. I do have a couple questions, so I apologize. Let's start with the 2019 audit. There was, I believe there was a few deficiencies that you noted in 2019. Can you just speak to those and whether those deficiencies were addressed?
I'm scrambling to get to those. So we had a couple of deficiencies, properly worded deficiencies, meaning they fell far below the required communication that accompanies material weaknesses or significant deficiency. So deficiencies are more of a discussion amongst the staff and us. We talked about a few things, and I think all of them were implemented. Yes, all three were implemented from the prior year.
Yeah, I'm noting that it's Appendix A, talking about the status of comments from December 31st, 2019. That's on page 11 of your transmission letter to us. So that they've all been considered and implemented. Is that your conclusion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. In addition, I believe that your audit did mention that there's some required supplementary information. Can you just explain what the process is to acquire that and then how that impacts the clean audit that you've indicated?
Sure. That begins with the general fund budget and actual. Basically, what we are required to present in the required supplementary information are the major general and special revenue funds budget to actual, as well as some information on OPEB, other post-employment benefits, and IMRF, and make sure that the user understands the position you're in on both of those areas. And the IMRF is current at 12/31, 2020, 120% funded. So that's the reason that the IMRF here is showing contributions far below what most governmental agencies participating in IMRF pay throughout the state. Most of my clients are in double digits, meaning over 10% of covered payroll. You're well below that.
Let me just stop you there, Dan. My question really goes to I noticed that on page 34 of the report, you mentioned there's some required supplementary information, budgetary comparison schedule of employer. There's four bullet points. So my question goes to how did the fact that you're requiring that supplementary information, how does that impact your conclusions in broad strokes? In broad strokes, how does that impact your conclusions that we have a clean financial audit here?
So those support the rest of our, the basic financial statements that appear in the front of the report. So we need the IMRF and the OPEB and this budget to actual information in order to opine on those. So it supports our opinion in all manners. So
okay,
it allows us to give a clean opinion.
Okay, Barney, I just have two other comments. If you want to make them now or two. Okay, my first comment is I would note that the conclusion, and Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, that your conclusion is the district's financial position continues to remain strong. And I just want to acknowledge the hard work of Mary Lynn Peters and the rest of her financial staff to make that happen under very difficult situations and conditions based on everything that's happened over the last 15 months. So I just want to acknowledge the hard work of that staff. And I also want to acknowledge the hard work of the entire staff for making that happen. And the second thing is, and I do want to congratulate my fellow board members. We've done a lot over the last year, meeting much more often than we we have done in the past to review and to monitor the financial condition of the district, both in board meetings and the finance committee meetings. It's been a lot of work for everybody, but what has come of it is that we are coming out of COVID as in a very strong financial condition. So I just want to basically thank everybody who's on this call, because everyone in this meeting, because everyone in their own way participated to reach that goal. And the second thing I wanted to comment on is that on page 9 of the report, it mentions economic factors in next year's budget. And I don't want to discuss this tonight, but I would think that in a future finance committee meeting that we could talk about the 7 bullet points that are noted, that the economic factors that may impact next year's budget. And I'd like to have that conversation prior to you presenting a budget to the finance committee. Is that okay, Mary Lynn?
Sure, of course.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, those are very good points, Cal. Thank you for bringing them up. Brian?
No questions, just Dan and Mary Lynn and your group. Great job.
Jen?
Oh, thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the hard work, and certainly can understand that it was a challenging time last year, as Cal said.
Thank you.
We will now.
As always, I just want to remind the board that although I work with staff, I work for the board. And if you have any questions along the lines, please feel free to give me a call.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We will now go to approval of Moraine. Yeah, I want to make sure I'm in the right word. Approval of the Moraine Park Path Engineering Services
Did you do roll
proposal.
call for the approval?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I went right over it. Is there a motion to approve the 2020 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report of the Park District of Highland Park?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Roxanne, please call the roll.
Commissioner Bernstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Kaplan,
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
President Ruttenberg.
I vote aye as well. The motion carries. Just got ahead of ourselves with knowing how good we did. All right, now, with your permission, we will go to approval of the Moraine Park Path Engineering Services proposal. Director Smith.
Thank you very much. So last week at the Lakefront Committee meeting, we did discuss Moraine Park Path. And we had consensus that we were going to bring this proposal approval to the full board this evening. So this is in regards to the path that leads down to the lakefront access at Moraine Park, which houses the district's dog beach, plus is a passive beach for the community. So back in 2019, we had a path failure, and I do know that most of the board has heard this and seen this presentation, but I do want to provide a little bit of a kind of a refresher on it. And also I'm aware that not all of the board has seen it. So I will do my best to go through it somewhat quickly, but the one thing I do want to point out here is in this image, you can see that the path prior to the failure, it's a flagstone path that is cut in the side of the ravine slope, and it runs all the way down to the beach. So this is Moraine Park. This red line here indicates construction fencing that we currently have up in this area. So since this has been closed for some time, everyone's aware that staff have done what they could to keep people out of this area because it is an unsafe situation. However, that has been an ongoing challenge. So last week, construction style fencing, right here, the image of it, was placed in this area. I will say, however, it was only up for a matter of days, and we've already started to experience people making their way in anyway, as you can see in this picture on the left. So here is the parking lot at Moraine. This yellow path is the path that leads down to the lake. So just for a quick orientation, when you're heading down, there is a wooden staircase here. Then we have a bridge that crosses the ravine. We have some stone steps. And then in between there is our first failure that we had. You can see right here, we had the from water coming down and kind of collapsed the trail here, and then it sort of falls down toward the ravine. We also have a few other spots. There's a small area there, small area here, and our largest area was right here. So when this occurred, we had reached out to some contractors. We also reached out to the Army Corps of Engineers and also worked with the city of Highland Park. And we relatively quickly determined that unfortunately there was no quick repair for this. It was simply not possible just to put the path back together. As you can see in this image right here, the entire support on the ravine side here, this entire toe is simply gone, and it has to get rebuilt. So we looked into various options, but along the lines of a quick fix, I guess, is we have that challenge there, and also understanding that there was a larger issue causing this. So what we did is move forward with looking for solutions that would actually address the issues, because it would be very likely that if we were to be able to rebuild this, we would have this failure again relatively soon, which most certainly could create an unsafe situation. And lastly, construction access in this area is really limited. So creating that access is somewhat costly. And so in doing that, we want to make certain we're putting in a repair that has longevity. So with that said, we had hired Daniel Craney Company to create concept plans for this area. And you can see here, they conducted a topographic survey, they looked into construction access, geotechnical and structural assessment, and also came up with various repair options. So we have reviewed these. but I will talk about them briefly. This repair is not just repairing the path, but it's also addressing some of the larger issues that led to the failure. And that is some drainage improvements on the top of the slope, and also addressing, there's steel walls along the ravine. This area has completely washed out, and we just don't have the support at the bottom of the block. So I'm going to just touch on each of these quickly. So here's the steel walls I was just mentioning. These are to retain the slope, and as you can see, there's a giant gap here that has just been washed out over time. So real quickly, it's kind of tough to see this construction document here. Here's the path. Those steel walls, there's one here and one here. As part of this project, there would be backfill of stone in those areas to provide that support. And then there would also be stone and gabion baskets that are placed here, here, and here, which would help to prevent the ravine from washing out behind there. And then I also mentioned on the top of the slope there is drainage that we want to address. So a big part of this is water flowing down, and there's once again very limited access up here, but what we'd like to do is put some small drains in here. It would be hand dug. We put some drains in here. There would be some berming to direct water rather than running off along the slope. We would do directional boring and run a pipe below grade that would discharge in the ravine. And so it would be pulling some of that water down into the ravine and reduce the water that's washing down the slope and helping to wash out the path. And then the third component of this project is the actual fix to the path. So in the end, Daniel Craney Company came up with two primary approaches that could address this. And this first one here, it's a little tough to see, but this is a cross section of the path. This would be keeping the path at grade. You have the stone path here, and then the failure went all through here. So these are gabion baskets. They're basically metal baskets that would be filled with stone. This would be placed here to kind of recreate that toe. And then there would also be gabion baskets here. There's a lot of forces and pressure that comes down here. So this would have to be retained. Right now it's a stone wall that would need to be removed. So this is one approach. And looking closer at this, there still were some concerns that this may not be sustainable over time. And so the other approach that Daniel Craney Company had come up with is to construct an elevated boardwalk over the sections of failed path. So here's the slope. So it would regrade the slope. And we would remove the stone wall. We would remove the path underneath. And what it would allow is when there is runoff, it could simply flow under the boardwalk. And so it would, we feel that this would have a much longer longevity and help to keep the path open without failures. So here's just a brief example of what that boardwalk could look like. And I will say this is the recommended approach by staff. And then as we mentioned earlier, these red portions are the failed section of path. So that boardwalk would go here. It would also go in this white bracketed area right here. And then the rest of the path would remain the existing flagstone path. So as far as cost for this goes, option one, which was the one that was recreating the path kind of at grade where it is now. We have an estimated cost for construction access, estimated cost for path repair. I apologize, I should not say boardwalk. The drainage improvements we discussed on the top of the slope, the steel wall improvements, and a contingency. So the estimated construction cost for that option was $344,000. And then option two, which was the elevated boardwalk, it's very similar components, the same construction access. The boardwalk repair is slightly higher. The drainage improvements are the same, the steel wall improvements, and there's a contingency. So it's $364,000, so approximately $20,000 to $30,000 more for that option. Now, what we're asking for tonight is approval from Daniel Craney Company for their proposal to move forward with the construction documents. As you can see, we have concepts now, and staff have made a recommendation on the concept. We're looking more to moving forward with the next step, and that is developing these construction documents so that we can eventually bid them out for construction. So the construction document component of their proposal is $28,000. The proposal they provided us at this time also gives us a price for construction phase services. So once we moved into construction, there's some assistance that they would provide, and that's at $98,000. It's very likely that that number may be reduced based on staffing needs in the district, or staffing availability, I should say, in the district, and working more closely as we develop the project. So the total proposal cost is $37,800. This evening, all we're looking to do is move forward with the construction document phase of this project. This does not commit us to construction in any way. So the overall cost for this project, as we said, the construction document portion of the proposal is $28,000. The construction phase services portion at this time is $9,800. And the estimated construction cost for the option 2, the boardwalk option, $364,063. So it's a total estimated project cost of $392,063. This year, in the 2021 capital budget, we have $35,000 budget, which was intended for the construction document. And right now, in the 2022 capital budget, we have $450,000 earmarked for construction. And I will say, one of the reasons staff is recommending moving forward with these construction documents at this time is, while construction is currently planned for 2022, if we were to complete these, get these documents started now, it would actually open up the possibility, if the board so chose, to move forward with construction later this year and actually complete it this year and reopen lakefront access to Moraine sometime in 2021. With that said, are there any questions?
2022.
I'm sorry, 2022. I'm looking at the wrong number here.
2022. Questions? Cal?
Thanks, Jeff. There's a lot to unpack here. It's been a while since we've seen this, so I'm sorry. Thank you for refreshing my memory about this. Let's just start at the beginning. The existing path. So if what you're saying is that there's just no simple fix of sending a landscape company down there, or landscape architect to come down there and just basically repair the existing path, because that'd be, am I putting word in your mouth, but correct me if I'm wrong, that'd be fruitless because it would just wash away again in the future, in the near future.
That's correct. So this was looked at very closely. If that was the case, then we would have had the path repaired and open a long time ago.
Okay. So an easy fix of just sending someone down there for, you know, I guess just put railroad ties or do whatever just to shore it up. That's just not realistic. That this is the only only alternative. These two alternatives are the only way to have a long-term solution to the issue in that ravine. Is that correct?
That's correct. Our once again, we quickly discovered there wasn't a quick, safe option, and we're looking for a long-term solution.
Now, the areas that you're not decking, the other areas of the path that have not had any issues so far, are those areas in danger in the future of having the same issues that the areas that washed away are currently experiencing?
So we did have the engineering firm look at this, and we feel confident that these areas are not at risk. As I said, though, we are addressing the toe of the slope and also doing some with the drainage, which will help overall. We did look at, however, if it was decided that we wanted to extend this boardwalk the entire length of that path, while it would certainly be more costly, that's something we explored. While I don't have an exact cost for that, I could say it would be roughly 150 to 200,000 additional for extending the boardwalk the entire length of that path.
So basically, in conclusion, is what the staff's recommendation, based on consulting with Dan Creaney, who's the civil engineer, is that the only way to reopen the beachfront access at Moraine Park is to basically spend $400,000 on this path?
I'd say that's an accurate summary.
Okay. And so I think it's and basically to the board, it's basically, as I see it, the question is that do we want to have safe beachfront access at Moraine Park? If the answer is yes, what I'm hearing is we have to spend roughly a little under $400,000 to accomplish that. If it's not important, then that's a different conversation. But I think that's really the policy decision that this board needs to make. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Cal, could I ask you your opinion before we move on?
Now, I'd like to hear my other commissioners before I give you my opinion.
Okay, Brian Kaplan.
Yeah, Jeff, I'm going to take a different tack. What bothered me first was the broken fencing. And I want to know what kind of danger walking that path poses to pedestrians or to the public at this time.
So as you can see in the photos, I mean, it's simply not safe to walk along there. The other challenge, so there's your, I guess, understood dangers of walking through, but what we found also is that people aren't always trying to use the path. It's not very usable, and especially getting up there. So people have come through the ravine, people have walked along the side of the slope, obviously dangerous as well. But in addition, it's caused damage to the natural area there.
Do we have any signage up along with the fence?
You know, I unfortunately can't speak to that. I know there was signage at one time, but I'm not sure. But I can say that the fencing that's there does send a relatively clear message that this area is closed.
Well, I understand that, but
I believe there is signage. I don't know, Dan Voss, maybe you could clarify what the signage might say.
Yes, there is currently, I was there this morning, there is signage on the fence.
Okay. And do we know who uses this path aside from people going to and from the dog park, the dog beach?
No, I don't have any data on exactly who's going on.
There's plenty of people.
I would add though that when Amalia and the planning team did the update to the lakefront master plan, and they did some pop-up meetings at those lakefront properties. And I don't think Amalia is here, but I think it was noted in the lakefront plan that a pretty significant, certainly number of people who live in that area use it just for beach access, not for dog off-leash access, but just because it's a way to access the lakefront. And so it would be a definite combination of those who are pet owners as well as those who are just residents who obviously value the natural landscape of the walk down the ravine as well as the access to the lake.
That's correct. And I will add that we definitely, while it was closed last year, we definitely saw quite a bit of attempts to use it for pure lakefront access last summer.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Jen?
Yeah, so I have been spending some time walking around at these beach areas before the gate, peering down, whatever the case is. There's plenty of people going down to the lake here. And other places too. So at some point, people made a path, and then we as the park district or someone else created a better path or whatever the case may be. And now there's some liability to maintain a safe path. So we need to do that. But I feel the bigger issue for me is how long will it last before we need to do something, and will we continue to maintain the other areas? And there's some heavy criticism of lack of maintenance or a low budget for maintenance and those types of things. So how do we keep this open? Okay, we're going to spend this money, and it is not a small amount of money to fix a path. So how do we do that going forward, Jeff? And what does that entail? And how much is, what needs to happen to the other areas to keep them from falling apart, other than there's great drainage and now we shouldn't have an issue?
So yeah, so part of, as you referenced, part of this project is trying to create somewhat of a fix to the issues. Along with that, we do have our parks crew that is down there regularly. There probably has been feedback about the area being poorly maintained because they have not been able to maintain it for the last 2 years. If there are trees down, other things like that, but that's simply because they don't have safe access right now. So the condition that area appears to me right now is not the condition that the district would maintain that site or has maintained that site in the past. And I stress that because I know we received feedback about that, but once again, it's not an area that we are maintaining regularly at this time. But that obviously our parks crew would do that. And we do feel confident that this approach would be the best approach that we've been able to explore that is going to be less likely to fail. Now, once again, we can never guarantee, but we do feel strongly that this is by far the less likely to fail and probably be the most stable for the future.
And we will continue to maintain and revisit the property and, make sure that it's in upkeep. I mean, otherwise we fall into a pattern, right, of I have to spend a huge chunk of money every so often instead of doing the ongoing maintenance. So, I feel very positive that this is a place to spend money, not because of a dog park. I mean, most of the people that I know that I've spoken with that head down there definitely are doing it for beach access. The dog part's a bonus, but it's part of the benefit of living in that area. So, I feel good about it. I just want to make sure that we keep it up so that we don't have to revisit this in X number of years at this dollar amount.
And Jen, I also want to mention that last fall, the park board approved a beach management plan, and that was conducted through a grant that we received, and that addressed the bluffs, the ravines, and all of the infrastructure that is the natural infrastructure. And there were recommended maintenance practices for us to continue doing in the future. So we do have a plan for that. It's not, so that's part of our operational plan.
I did see that, and thank you for the reminder. I'm drinking through a fire hose right now, and I have not been here a month, but I'm doing my best to keep up with that stuff that came before me. So thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Just a few questions. The construction phase services is, as you said, something that we may or may not need them to do depending on our own internal staffing and our abilities, correct?
That is correct. And there are in there, they propose some construction staking, a few other things that we'll work with them more closely on that. But yes, they're very likely that we'll be able to take a heavier role in the construction oversight when we possibly do the construction.
Okay, thank you. At this point, knowing what you know about the topography, you're comfortable in not recommending boardwalking the entire access route? Am I correct?
That's correct. However, it could always be explored potentially as an alternate in the bid. We could discuss with Dan Craney Company the possibility of that extension and then, like I said, bidding it out as an alternate if it's something that we'd like to look into. But we do feel comfortable that this addresses the issue and will keep the path open for some time.
So your considered opinion is that at this point, we don't have to do a boardwalk to the entire length?
That's correct.
Okay. What I am also concerned about is how we're going to characterize this area. If it's characterized as a dog beach, then I'm troubled by spending this much money for a dog beach. And I, like Jen and everybody else, understand that there are a lot of people who go down there for beach access, for lake access. And I guess I'd like to know, before we spend the money, how will we recharacterize this, if at all, so that the public is not just going to a dog beach, but is going to the lakefront?
So this is actually something that we had heard as Brian had mentioned when we did the update to our lakefront master plan, and it's included in the plan as an understanding that is an ask of the community to have both pedestrian, just typical beach access down there, in addition to the dog beach. And so part of that lakefront master plan update is to further develop that area to provide a portion, at least, that is dedicated, not for dogs, but just for beach access.
I would say, Jeff, that any approval of spending the money other than for the construction documents would be conditioned upon our having a plan to make this a pedestrian-friendly, dog-friendly beach, as opposed to people thinking of it only as a dog beach. And I guess, Brian, is that within the realm of possibility?
So it is categorized as a passive recreation beach in our beach management plan that allows for off-leash dog access. So I believe it already is characterized that way in our updated beach management plan. In the lakefront master plan, which again addresses more of the non-natural infrastructure, is to look at ways that we can better accommodate that user experience who do not have pets. So I think we do have a plan, and we have looked at how we categorize it differently. And I think we're heading in the right direction based on your comments, Bonnie.
Okay, well, I will vote in favor of spending the money for the construction documents, but my caveat is no more money gets spent until we approve a plan to make it totally accessible to two-legged and four-legged people. With, if we have to put in amenities, benches, make it nice, make it a nice destination and not just for the dogs. Are there any other comments to this after our discussion?
The only other comment that I think was implied, but I just want to add to Jeff's presentation, is one of the reasons that we are recommending you move forward with this now is the consideration that if we don't move forward, that area that you spoke of that we do not think is in jeopardy of erosion, and why we don't have a boardwalk there, I think if we don't address the drainage issues, we could be looking at a different issue 1 to 2 years down the road. So the sooner we can fix the drainage issues, I think we can prevent future issues in this area.
Oh, good point. Good clarification. Is there a motion authorizing Executive Director Romes to enter into an agreement with Daniel Creaney Company for the Moraine Park Path Engineering Services in an amount not to exceed $28,000?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roxanne, would you please call the roll?
Wait, Barney,
Oh, wait, there is a question. Is
there's
it?
a question.
All right, let's take the question from Chad before we take the vote then. Thanks for catching that.
Thanks. Assume you can hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. I certainly appreciate progress on this, as that's another valuable resource that's got limited access or zero access at this point. Where does this project fall in ADA requirements?
It is obviously not ADA accessible. It is not required to be, as we do have another off-leash dog beach, and dog park, and we also have the beach ADA accessible beach access at other sites.
Okay, as long as that's satisfactory to the board, then I'm fine with it.
Okay, thank
Thanks.
you, Chad. Roxanne, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bernstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Kaplan,
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
President Ruttenberg.
I vote yes. Also, the motion carries. Thank you. With our caveats that we threw into it. All right. Now we can go to the Preserve of Highland Park project update. Director Voss to present. Really?
I'm just as surprised as you, President Roddenberry. Actually, I'm handing the baton to to, of course, Rebecca Grill, our natural areas manager, who has put this together, and we'll pull it up and off she goes.
Oh, thank goodness. I thought we'd have to listen to you.
You don't want to listen to me, right? I agree.
All right, well, I will be brief. I have some nice photos of progress at the preserve. In the month of May, a lot of work has taken place. We've completed excavation on all of the amenity areas. We have done seating areas for those areas that have them, path layouts. We put down permeable pavers. And I will start with the sand play area. So we have some photo shots here of the picnic area that is taking shape, along with in the background and in the middle picture, the little turtle sand sculptures that are climbing features. Those will be covered in pour-in-place rubber, so they'll be available for play. And on the right, we have an interesting feature, which is a fossil dig that'll be covered in the sand. We're taking off play on the sand bunker that was in existence in this area. And those are actual turtle tracks from prehistoric times that we created a mold for, and also imprinted some native plants there. So that should be fun for the kids to dig into. In this area also, I wanted to let you know that we issued a change order that you'll see when we talk about our budgeting. This was anticipated already in our projected costs, but this was to create a little bit more pour-in-place access to the turtle mounds and the sand table that will also be part of this. The change order also includes that sand table. We had originally pulled it out of our original bid because we thought we could get better pricing, and we did. So I'll show you how that worked out in a bit. The nature maze on the left, we have what it looked like at the beginning of May, and it is taking shape now with a decomposed granite pathway and an accessible pathway, and some seating areas for people who can watch their kids play in the nature maze that'll be formed by native shrubs. So on the right there, you see some of the representative shrubs. They haven't been planted quite yet. The entry plaza, which you can actually just drive by and see from the parking lot, is also taken shape. Since I took these pictures, they've added the seating area to that area you see on the right with the permeable pavers. So that's exciting to see that come to play. So this is all a process of pouring the concrete curbing, laying down the permeable pavers, creating these stone benches in our stone council seating style that we use here in Highland Park. This then is the North Pond Overlook. We've done some pretty substantial planting around that overlook, which you can see in the middle, and on the right, there's the beginnings of the deck for the overlook. The overlook itself is still up in Wisconsin, as we are working out final engineering details of how it is actually placed into the water, how the engineering works for the piers. So that is on its way, but it's fun to see that starting to take shape with the stone seating around it, the wetland plantings, the shrubs that are framing it. So that is nice. And while we're on the topic of the North Pond, the IEPA shoreline grant, we've continued our work on that with plantings of live plants around the shoreline, and then also in two what are called swales, vegetated swales. You might remember when we started the project, we looked at the hydrology on the site and found where the water tends to flow in concentrated areas, and have planted those out with wetland plants. So that's been done. And we had our grant administrator from IEPA, Ashley Strelchak, came out this week and was pleased with our progress. So that is also a good thing. Here, as I mentioned, is our financial recap. So you'll see that the construction projected is now 1.2. That includes now this change order 7 that we have also deducted from the other costs. So our overall projected hasn't changed. We've just transferred projected costs to actual in terms of contractual. On the right, our actuals are now through our third pay app for Team Real. Our other costs, excuse me, on my screen, your panel shot is in my way of my numbers, so excuse me. Okay. In the other costs down there at the bottom, another cost that we had anticipated was some irrigation repairs that we had to make. So those are included there already. And then just miscellaneous costs for turtle molds and so forth and so on. We are still considering ourselves on schedule. As I said, it's been a little topsy-turvy with the dry weather. They've been able to work in areas we didn't think they would. So we just keep using our adaptive management and moving ahead. Just today, we were planting out the pollinator garden with some perennial plants, and they're keeping those watered for us. So that is the update. And I'll take any questions you might have.
Cal?
I have no questions, just a comment. Rebecca looks gorgeous, and I just can't wait to see it. And I can't wait for you to give me a tour. So let me know when you're available.
All right, that sounds really good.
Brian?
Yes, Rebecca, could you address one issue? I shared with you today, some people were questioning the condition of the preserve and what they believe to be the stalemate of work being performed.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe for us what phase we're in and why it looks the way it does and what we're trying to do with it?
Yeah, I think some of the concern that was raised was the orange fencing. And I think that the attempt is being made to leave parts of the park open, as we have discussed. But at the same time, we have to close off areas in order to have large construction trucks moving through there. So I think sometimes people see the orange fencing, they use our trails that we have open for them, and they don't really see into the middle section of the park where all the work is happening. So perhaps that causes some confusion as to what is going on. We do weekly updates that are sent out to the community through our email services and also on the website. So there's a lot going on. I think people may not be able to see it from where they are, and that is due to our attempt to keep people safe on a working construction site.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Jen?
No, I love it. Great report. Thank you. No questions.
Thank you.
My only comment is also great report. And hold on a second, I have to open a bottle of, I'll do this in 2 minutes. Got to take care of dinner. I'm sorry, got to take care of dinner. I thought it was a great report, and I've walked around when people haven't been there, and like Cal, I think I'd love to have a tour. So maybe Cal and I could, so we can avoid the Open Meetings Act complications. Maybe Cal and I could tour it with you together one day.
We can work something out, I'm sure, for anyone who's interested.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it. Let's now move to review of vouchers while I try to open this bottle of olive oil. What am I gonna say?
It's an important job in the house, Barney. Don't sell it short.
I'm not.
Okay. In your packet, your board packet, we had the voucher packet for your review. We are at less than $500,000 this time around, with about 40% of that being spent on the Rosewood Park drainage project. So does anyone have any questions on the voucher packet?
I will say that I have reviewed them. I had a question or two, and Brian and I answered them, and I have no further questions. Cal, Jen, Brian, I think we're good.
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Open to the public to address the board. Is there any public? Chad is part of the public. I don't know if he's still here.
Yeah, Chad has left the meeting.
All right, so we have no public.
We have no attendees now.
All right. We will not have closed session unless any of the commissioners desire it. Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Bye.